Hey all, this is 012Ku and
Your favorite janitorial jackass, Jherick.
we are coming at you with basically Jherick's takes and the Idiots Do TV review on Twin Peaks again. If you guys just remember yesterday, which some of you have already watched, did the short review on episode 2, which again is titled Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer. I know that's a mouthful, but that's what it's titled. But when we can still do clever titled episodes,
Which is totally not foreshadowing anything in this episode. No.
Well, not only that, the entire show, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, kind of too.
but other than that, yeah, Jherick is here to give his takes. So take it away, Jherick, since I gave mine yesterday.
And remind me, what was kind of like the overview of what the log lady said at the beginning?
What comes in the form of I didn't write that down, but what comes in the form of dreams? Do dreams provide us answers? What do dreams tell us? Can dreams hold the truth and something like that?
Okay, now I remember. Yeah, my apologies. I didn't write down notes for this one because it would have been like 7 or 8 pages.
Before you continue, there's one thing I will mention really quick because of that, because I'm surprised I didn't mention it yesterday in my review, is that if we do an overall thing of this whole show is almost to take an Edgar Allan Poe's quote that he said years ago, well, many years ago, because he's dead for many years, but all that we are and all that we've seen is nothing but a dream within a dream.
Well, and also I think it's a bit of an homage to H.P. Lovecraft and Azathoth, the idiot sleeping dreamer.
Definitely.
Where our universe is just basically its dream, and when he wakes up, we're all going to be doomed.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I gave Zombie JLT1 a copy of what was it? On the Eternal Seas, I believe, by H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, I got my hands on a copy of that, and I said, this is a Zombie JLT1 book. He loved it, by the way.
Well, yeah, and I also have the entire collection of, H.P. Lovecraft and other weird stories by him. So I think I have basically his whole sort of collection, basically.
And, given the fact this takes place way in, like, the upper Midwest of America.
Well, south, or no, northwest. Northwest.
And, given it's, the story of, like, basically the Black Lodge corrupting people, driving them nuts, people coming into contact with forbidden knowledge and going insane. Yeah, it's got Lovecraft connotations all over it, which, big Lovecraft fan here. But also, the Log Lady's intro to this, always pay attention to the Log Lady's intro. It plays very heavily into this. In fact, you could say it's pretty much a direct warning to a certain main character who's going to be having visions in his dreams, which may or may not be a good thing because it kind of leads him into some very odd places, hence the title of the show, Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer, which is kind of an ominous warning for our boy Dale Cooper. You're getting in a little deep. But, we'll get there when we get there. But, yeah, this was a very interesting episode. Cooper has a very interesting little message given to him in his dream about which, spoiler warning, they basically just flat out tell him who killed Laura Palmer twice.
Yeah.
Because, it's Twin Peaks. We can't do anything normally.
Well, actually, to have it, since you're setting up that concept, I'll say the little bit you're sort of forgetting there, too, just to give you something to bounce off of. Because if you remember, I mentioned it in my review yesterday, too, he got a dream to figure out the clues for the killer with the rocks in the bottle and throwing it at the bottle, and that's what I mentioned.
I was getting to that part.
Oh, okay.
Because, see, like I said, they told him who killed Laura Palmer twice because, again, bear in mind, nothing in Twin Peaks is ever completely as it seems. They know the identities of the killers. The question is, how are you going to make the connection? And that's the fun part. Like, Cooper has this very interesting idea about how to, because, they've got basically the answer. They've got part of the question. But how are you going to make the two connect? It's like algebra in a sense. So he comes up with this idea based on a certain type of Buddhist dream interpretation. I think it's like one of the mantric what are like the mantric or dharmic meditation practices they use? Basically expanding your mind to like the dreamscape to interpret things from a different viewpoint, which actually kind of works out for him because they got certain clues. They don't know how to connect them all, but he kind of does this thing where he like sets up a bottle and he tells them, like write these names, all of which have like a J in the last name on a blackboard. And when I toss the rock at the bottle, depending on whether it hits, whether it knocks it down or anything, call out the name and their connection to Laura Palmer. And what's interesting is he actually does get the correct answer, not the complete correct answer, and not in the way that he's supposed to, but it does lead him in the right direction, which is kind of like what some people think dreams are supposed to do. They're like messages from your subconscious, acting as like a third-person perspective, looking down on reality and giving you a different viewpoint of things. If you follow certain sects of psychology or religion and mysticism. And it's interesting that he chose Buddhism because Buddhism, Taoism, Shintoism, they all follow the principles of like Zen, which, he was kind of studying a lot about a certain place politically disputed by a certain people's republic over and over again. Yeah, we're not saying the thing. We don't want to wind up like Kiryu Coco, but she was from Hololive.
Oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, she's the one that got graduated by force for mentioning something. I'm sure all the kids in Brazil know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyways, basically, this is kind of the neat thing about Cooper. He is a very weird goober, but you can tell, he is a brilliant individual. He's just a bit unorthodox, which is why, for part of the investigation, he has to call in a friend of his from the agency, an Agent Albert. Now, this guy, I love this dude, but he's an asshole. Like, there's no two ways about it. This motherfucker has no people skills.
Well, he's very blunt, very direct, and he has no tact, basically.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing about it. This is actually why I respect him. See, there's a lot of jobs where you need that kind of attitude, where you need somebody who, they're not there to make friends. They're not there to be good people. They're there to just get shit done. And a lot of government work, you need that, especially intelligence, military. And heck, strangely enough, you've heard me talk about my sister. She's the exact same way, which is why I do not respect her as a person. But as a nurse, she is the single best nurse you could ask for. She's not going to put up with your horse shit. She's not there to, to glaze your feelings or emotions or whatever. She's there to do her fucking job. Although I will say, if you're a nurse, you do need people skills because people are already in a panic when they go to the hospital, but that's another aside. Albert, on the other hand, is kind of in one of those jobs where you can be an asshole and it actually works to your advantage. Mm-hmm. Like that and accountant, IRS, insurance adjuster. You don't need people skills. You need these skills. And Albert's got those.
Yeah. But remember, it's about finding the clues for him. It isn't about everything else.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, this isn't about, interacting with people. However, we see the other side of it, too, where he's being very abrasive with everyone in the office, at the sheriff's station, and Hawk puts him in his place real damn quick.
No. Sheriff Truman.
Oh, Sheriff Truman, sorry. Sheriff Truman. And this is kind of why I love Sheriff Truman. Sheriff Truman is almost like our Clark Kent stand-in for this show, because he's the nicest guy in the entire world, most of the time. But you get on his case hard enough, he will go from Clark Kent to Injustice Superman like that. And it's kind of a neat thing because Dale understands this. Dale is definitely more of a people person. Albert is more of a fuck you, I'm doing this person. Mm-hmm. And you need, for this kind of an investigation, you need both of them, but you need someone to act in between as a mediator, and that's what Truman does.
Exactly. And before you continue, Jherick, to reiterate on your point there, throughout this, because Agent Albert Rosenfield, will come back several times throughout the show, and he and Truman I mean, Albert has other bad interactions with some of the other characters throughout the show too. But with and you know, even Andy stands up to him at one point. But with him and Harry S. Truman, you know, Sheriff Truman and Albert have the biggest like interactions of all. And it's like they go. David Lynch goes out of his way to show that Albert is the antithesis to the proactiveness of Harry S. Truman, where Harry S. Truman, you know, he can be your friend, he can be chummy, he can be good. We haven't gotten to that point, but you'll learn Harry S. Truman is actually a very damn good sheriff and good at what he does.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll see that with his brother as well, Frank Truman, in season 3.
Well, and you could also say like Albert's more of a specialist. He focuses like on one or two specific fields. Truman's kind of more the dude on the ground. He does a little bit of whatever needs to be done. Or to put it in a context you World War II fanatics would understand, Albert S. Rosenthal is more of a Douglas A. MacArthur. Truman is more of a Patton. If you know, you know. One dude deals with the soldiers. The other dude is kind of more in the back rooms planning everything. Again, if you know, you know. But anyways, it's a very interesting episode. But what really got my attention was when we see Dale in the Black Lodge. This is easily the biggest oh shit moment of this part of the show.
But also to entice fans who, again, if you're watching this before you've seen it, please see it, because I'll basically say, yeah, he gave it away there. But again, if you've seen it, you know it. But if you don't know it, you don't know it, because they don't mention it as the Black Lodge. It's just this weird fucking place with that, like I said, with the red velvet curtain and the zigzaggy floor that becomes important. But it's basically essentially where he's at. That does, and it's hard to believe, but this scene does also play in to the entirety of the prequel movie, the first 2 seasons, and the 3rd season. So again, this scene just sets up the whole, like I said, the whole otherworldly moments that we get throughout the show, because this is where the spiritualism enters into the show big time.
Now, before I mention that part, let's just do a little build up, because I mean it's a very big significant thing that we see him basically in the lodge, but like there's a lot of little hints that there's a lot more playing into this. Like for instance, what's that Asian lady's name?
You mean Jocelyn Packard?
Yeah, Jocelyn. We see her now it looks like she's collaborating with
Pete.
Yeah, with
Pete. Because Pete gave her the key to find the 2 ledgers.
Yeah, to find the real ledgers over that one lady's business dealings, which she's
Catherine.
Yeah, which she's holding over Mr. Horn over at
Benjamin Horn.
So it's clearly obvious, there's a lot. And aside from that, we see like, what was his name? Leo. Leo finally came out of it.
Leo Johnson. Well, yeah, to where we learn drug smuggling. Hey, but I guess we shouldn't have been shocked by that, because we knew he was hiding something fucking shady.
Well, I mean, they did find traces of cocaine on the dead body, so that was already established. But knowing that he was one of the guys with it, we also see him fucking around with the 2 guys who were messing with Bobby.
Yeah, and to add to your point, since you mentioned that already too, I didn't put it in the cast, but the guy in the mask, now they gave away in the credits because they have him as uncredited. So that is, that's the first Renault brother that we see, Bernard Renault. So yeah, the masked guy who's spying on them watching Leo is Bernard Renault.
And you can tell like all these little pieces are being moved around, and it all looks random. But again, you have to remember, this is a murder investigation. They all fit. You just have to figure out how.
Yes.
So the idea that at the beginning of this show, we see somebody giving Dale messages in his dreams, basically giving him the names of the murderers, but not the full context of it. And this is kind of the neat thing where it comes into what the log lady was warning about at the beginning, and also the title of the show. Zen, aka peace of mind, body, and spirit, or the skill to catch a killer. Which do you choose? Will you choose the path that leads down darkness and strife and all the bad, nasty things in life? Or are you going to go with the path of peace and redemption? Well, I think we all know which one Dale chose, because he winds up in the Black Lodge. Oh, and if you're wondering, why am I only wearing one glove today? it kind of plays into the theme of the Black Lodge, because if you didn't notice, when you look at the place, the zigzag floor pattern, the bright red curtains, the statue of the Venus de Milo with the arms covering like this.
Well, the arms back on, even essentially
Yeah.
too, since we know that to be broke in our world.
And it kind of plays into like the twisted corruption of everything, like the asymmetrical broken nature of everything. Everything in the Black Lodge is just fucking wrong. You know, you got like the big red theater curtains covering everything. There's red velvet furniture, which, dear God, I mean, you know, the velvet glove.
Yeah.
And then you've got the twisted little midget who's just talking in like this warped contortion of our language. You can tell this guy's clearly not a good person. He kind of looks a little too much like Larry Laffage from Leisure Suit Larry in the Land of the Lounge Lizards. Which, by the way, me and my sister were super hooked on the PS2 version of that game. Funny, hilarious game, by the way. Be careful trying to find it. That's going to be $200 or up on eBay. But anyways, and Laura Palmer's there for some odd reason. How did a dead woman get into the Black Lodge? And she's wearing a very fetching black gown. But yeah, Dale Cooper's there. The weird little Larry Laffer dude is kind of like,
Yep. Or man from Another Place, which I didn't give you proper thing yesterday, played by Michael J. Anderson.
And he's just wearing the most gauche, fucking bright pink lounge suit ever. It almost hurts to look at. It's like, Jesus Christ, you know, how many of the Rat Pack dicks up your ass did you need for that?
Yeah.
Can I get a Dean Martin dry sherry with that?
Yeah, and hold on, before you continue, Jherick, I will mention this. Thank God Peter Dinklage was not a thing then, because he could have cost, and not saying that this would have happened to Michael J. Anderson or anybody, so if anyone gets in our comment section to write this, at least it didn't cost Michael J. Anderson his job at this fucking show. Because, oh God, I'll basically mention it here, Man from Another Place, The Arm, the Dancing Man, whatever you want to call him, CGI'd.
Let's just say Peter Dinklage would be creepy in all the wrong ways for the scene. Like, good Lord, man, shampoo your hair.
Oh no! I'm saying Peter Dinklage wouldn't have played this scene. He probably would have complained about it and said, "Oh, was a little man evil? They've been evil before. Little people have played trolls and other things, and hell, little people were the Ewoks." In Return of the Jedi, they were teddy bears.
Yeah, space.
Didn't see them complain about that then, Dinklage. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up, but every time we see this now, I always think of that crap because it was so stupid.
Well, hey, like the Russian Badger put it, it's like, let me get this straight. We're the most advanced military in the galaxy, and we're getting killed by a batch of evil rejects from Build-A-Bear Workshop. Yeah, watch his Star Wars Battlefront video.
Oh, how dare I forget, since I mentioned that really quick, the Jawas as well.
Ding, 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 ding.
No,
yeah, sorry.
That too. That would probably be considered racist today.
Oh, God.
Ding, ding, ding.
You know, where the fuck were they during Book of Boba Fett? Sorry.
Who knows? But, well, remember, they were in the tree given the enchanted stick.
The dead tree, you know, totally not a bad sign or anything.
If you guys ever want us to review that stuff, let me know, and I will bite my fucking bile tongue and get Disney Plus back. If you want, or I'll even see if it ever came out on DVD and buy it, but just let me know, guys, in the comments, because, oh my God, I would need a lot to watch that shit again.
Yeah, I'm just going to warn you, we're going to need a Jherick, the Jackass swear jar if we're going to do that one. But anyways,
back on task.
Back to the Black Lodge, which, by the way, totally did not inspire the Velvet Room from Persona. Ha ha! You see? I fooled you. You thought I wouldn't have mentioned Persona in this video, didn't you?
Well, if you're going to mention that, Silent Hill 2.
And hey, a creepy short little guy with kind of an elongated nose. Hello, dear guest, and welcome to the Velvet Room. I miss that guy. He was so good. Anyways, we got the creepy little guy being like, yes, good things have happened. And he's, the way he talks is so weird and distorted. And it kind of emphasizes something weird that I love about this. The kind of implied connotations to hell, limbo, Satanism. Because for those of you who keep up on your Judeo-Christianity, one of the most powerful tools the devil has ever had is language, manipulating language, reinterpreting language. I mean, the way it's basically been implied that the devil has always been the most artful debater, that his words are always far more damaging than anything else he will ever use. So to hear like this sick, twisted little thing in a bad lounge suit talking like he's a warped version of like a Rule 63 Zatanna just really sets the tone for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Laura speaks, and oh my God, she's talking like he is. She's just got this weird gaze on Dale.
Keep going on.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, excuse me.
And you can just tell the whole time there is just something wrong in every damn way with this version of Laura, if it is indeed the real Laura. Because remember, Laura's dead. Death does not give what death takes. Just keep that idea in the back of your minds, kiddos. It's going to come into play later. But yeah, it's kind of neat to see the scene where Dale is absolutely out of his element. He doesn't know what to think. You can tell this creature and this other Laura are clearly just having fun, realizing that Dale has no clue what's going on and that he's kind of bewildered by all this.
You know what is funny about that? And for those who know, who have seen season 3, the whole non-existent thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it doesn't fully show when he physically goes to the Black Lodge the first time, but whenever he sees Laura, whether in the dream or physically, he's always, like, doesn't understand what's going on. Or when the fireman, the giant, tells him what's going on. So, it could have been even a foreshadowing to that he was always going to be non-existent once he...
Well,
like Philip Jeffries.
Well, think about it. In order to be able to go to some place like Limbo or some of the lower planes of hell, you would essentially have to have a hollowed out spirit. Like even if your spirit wasn't completely hollowed out when you first go there, every time you go there, you're going to lose a little bit of yourself. And also remember that there's a lot of old myths about how people react when they see doppelgangers. It's like it looks like them, it sounds like them, but you can just feel it. Something is not right. It feels off.
Which we haven't gotten into that yet, but we will.
Yep. And that's the funny thing. Like, even if Dale doesn't realize it, even if he's not, fully processing it, you feel it, it. Just the sound of their voice, their expressions. And also try to remember, like, there's that statue of the Venus de Milo that is supposed to have broken arms, and yet her arms are kind of like, no, don't touch me. And who's he talking to? He's talking to allegedly Laura.
Yeah.
And what happened to her? She got raped and murdered.
Well, yeah, while covering up the feminine form. And if you look at the Venus de Milo, like you said, how the statue is, when we see her without the arm, she's looking down. So to have them recreate what it used to look like, it's like, no, don't look at me. Don't, because again, it's covering up the purity of a woman, which is basically their parts like ours. It's supposed to be beautiful, but yet we can be ashamed of our nakedness and in many ways our own beauty, depending even on how we look. And to that point, part 2, I don't mean to take it this way, but when you think about it, something else that'll be good for debate. And I'm just going to put this out there. No, if you guys haven't seen this, you may not understand what I know. But given the talks you and I have had, Jherick, here's a question that we'll probably keep doing every time we do these reviews. Do you think Dale Cooper was possibly dead the whole time?
Maybe not entirely dead, but
exactly.
But it's entirely possible this was like his foreshadow moment to it.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to see the reason I thought about that right now, because like we said, even though he's in a dream, is this future or is this past?
And that's kind of the funny thing, because there have been various stories, some even in the Bible, of people who have received visions of hell, and that was supposed to be like in their dreams, where that's supposed to be like the what's it called, the fork in the road.
Yeah.
Do you go down the right path or do you go down the wrong path? That's basically the warning.
And again, guys, I don't mean to keep interrupting Jherick like this because you guys know I usually let him have his piece,
No,
which I mean he has. But the stuff he's bringing up is like making me think about what we've seen because again, every time you watch this show, you catch on to things you didn't notice before. And like I said in our last review, they bring up the dreamscape a lot. I never noticed how dreams were mentioned from the very beginning, and they really lay heavily on this in the prequel movie, and they even lay heavily on it more in season 3. So again, that's why I posed the question. For those of you who don't know, again, if for those of you watching, whoever watches these, I hope you have seen the entirety of the show. And if you haven't, please go see because I mean, obviously, like I say, we're spoiler heavy now. I usually don't give the warnings anymore because we talk about it, we review it. So we will get into spoiler territory just as a warning. But that's why I keep bringing it up because this is stuff I've not thought about before. And it's like, it's possible, but like I agree with him. Maybe he wasn't entirely, but when we even get to the prequel movie before Dale Cooper gets to Twin Peaks, you'll see what I'm getting at. It's like a lot of shit was set up before we even knew about it. So
and not only that, when you think about it, just the overall color scheme of this place, and like the little midget wearing the gouache pink outfit is all of it is hyper sexualized. Like pink and red are always commonly associated with passion and lust, and we see that the guy looks very much like a Larry Laffer stand-in. You know, we see Laura looking very, very good in that come hither breakfast at Tiffany's outfit. And I mean, again, red and pink are, again, the colors of fiery passion and love and lust. So it makes sense. Plus, there's also like the zigzag pattern on the floor. It seems innocuous at first until you think about it. The black and white two-tone pattern showing like the duality of existence, but like in a crooked, non-linear pattern. Wow. It's like you've gone on the wrong path.
Again, I know we haven't gotten that far in the show, but the Twin Peaks,
and
electricity, fire,
and it's also kind of invokes like the idea of like old staticky TV screens or those old things they used to use where they were doing like emergency broadcasts. Because strangely enough, for some reason, like there are a lot of ghost sightings where people either see like static TV screens, they hear like those white noise. Like heck, my auntie actually saw the specter of death before I did, and she said his face looked like a static TV screen. And it was even making the noise, which I mean, kind of disturbing. But hey, St. Jude protected her, so good on you, big guy. And then there's like the big red theater curtains. Again, doesn't seem like a big detail, but what's one of the biggest things the devil does to trick people? He puts on a grand performance, a big operatic show of things. Like usually if you get all up in God's face, he's just going to ignore your ass. It's like, I got nothing to prove to you. I am him. The devil, on the other hand, loves putting on a show for anybody.
Well,
it's one of his biggest themes.
Well, and because you mentioned it, what's the one thing when Dale Cooper first gets there in the dream that we see? Well, two things. There's the high pitched horn in the background, or whatever you want to say that is, and then
foghorn.
One of that like resonating sound. And then if you remember, as we're seeing the resonating sound, what's flying in the background? The owl. And as soon as the owl flies past the curtain, it stops.
Well, and what does a big red theater curtain usually symbolize? The beginning of a show and the end of it. So depending on how you interpret it, this could either be seen as the beginning of Dale Cooper's story or the end of his story. Which again,
is this future or is this past?
And like most people point out, what's the devil's favorite color? Red. Which, you know, considering the Black Lodge seems to be steeped in the color red, it kind of shows that the Black Lodge is the bad lodge. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Persona, the Velvet Room is like a very deep blue, a calming color.
And not just that. What do we see Laura and several characters in the Black Lodge dressed as? They're in black, which in many ways, I never looked at it this way before, but it now hit me again. Funeral dress.
Well, yeah, because it looks exactly like the type of dress you would wear to a funeral. And given the fact we know the real Laura is already dead, how appropriate that this Laura would be wearing a funeral-like dress.
Now, we won't mention it now because it'll probably be talked about when we get to the prequel because that is such a noodle scratcher. But do you think Laura is in hell, or do you think that or is Laura's soul so vast that what it is? Like I say, I'm mentioning it now, but we won't get into it now because that's probably going to be always a good several minutes of fucking discussion because me and Jherick have already talked about it. And we're still trying to figure out,
Well, I think,
like, what it is.
for instance, like the real Laura, the
hello.
true Laura is in heaven.
Mhm.
But I would like to think that, like, the part of her from her past where she was doing all these things was definitely property of the Black Lodge. Like-
all the evil and thing. Well, remember, she did accept, and again, spoiler territory again, guys. In the prequel, she does get possessed, at least from what it looks like to all of us, by a doppelganger for a little bit. Doesn't mean the doppelganger is completely evil either, but again,
Well, and also remember,
that's where she did all the bad stuff too.
also remember that Dale mentioned quite extensively how he was taking inspiration from a certain territory of political dispute fought over by a certain People's Republic of well-known repute, that he was following certain, getting tips from certain tenets from certain practices of like mysticism, and dream walking and meditation. Sorry,
Yeah.
meditation. And what's one of the more interesting cultural beliefs of the Asian people? That basically everything we interact with, we impart a little bit of our soul into. In fact, that's part of the big reason why samurai have such a huge thing with their weapons. It's not just in their eyes, it's not just a tool, it's a literal extension of themselves. You train with it, you fight with it, you live with it, you die with it. It literally becomes a part of you and it takes a part of you with it. Hence the reason why, like, a lot of samurai swords have basically survived the medieval era. They became family heirlooms. It was basically no different than my hat. This was my grandfather's hat. He had it before I did, and one day when I die, I hope to pass it on to someone in my family that I can trust.
Indeed. Well, then, since you did mention a whole lot of that, Jherick, and we've already surpassed a little bit over a half hour, anything else that you wanted to mention besides the Black Lodge, since you covered that in quite very good extensive territory, but extensive territory no less?
Well, there's oh my god, this episode had so much. It's why I didn't take notes this time, because I would have gone overboard. But let's just say, keep your eyes on oh god, what was that Asian lady and the lady she's working for again?
Jocelyn Packard and Catherine Martell.
Keep your eye on those two. And also, Mr. Horn's going to be playing
Yep.
some very big roles in the future.
And since you brought that up, don't forget that we now see that Benjamin Horn and Jerry Horn have a connection to One-Eyed Jack's, the casino / burlesque house.
Which, by the way, if any of you out there are avid poker or blackjack players, you probably already know why calling your bar the One-Eyed Jack is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, it happens to be really close to the Black Lodge, in which case, hey, vaya con Dios. Or maybe not via con Dios, via con Diablos, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot. I'm going to make this joke, and I know I'm going to get shit for this someday, but Twin Peaks really is, to me, the wheel of time of live action suspense thrillers. Because to me, you cannot keep your eyes off anybody. Everybody has a role to play. Nothing is inconsequential. Oh, and also pay attention to Dr. Jacoby, because he's going to teach you how to get yourself out of this shit.
Wow, it's funny you brought him up because you mentioned the bottle thing, and I mentioned in yesterday's review how because I only brought this two up since that's who the bottle affected. With Leo Johnson, it broke, but like Dale Cooper said, when they mentioned Dr. Jacoby's name, it hit the bottle, but the bottle did not break, which means Jacoby did have a huge connection to Laura, which he does. And I told Jherick this before. I like what they did to Jacoby. I think they dropped the ball on him just a tiny bit. But again, I think his character still served a great purpose to the show. I know there are reviewers who I think looked way too much like trying to like discover what Mark Frost and David Lynch were getting at and not really focusing on the story of it. Because yes, Dr. Jacoby, like they say, is a wackadoo, but he is a character who, much like everybody else, has a connection to this town. Now, whether it's meant to be funny or whatnot, because again, to mention really quick, we had the whole Big Ed and 18 thing and the forbid or Norma thing where they're in love, and and when he popped the grease guy and got grease over the runners, and the runners were silent,
Yep.
she's thinking in, and Ed's like, okay, what the hell? I mean, like I said, side stories that are fun, but again, because I mean, obviously, since these characters we come to grow and love about, a lot of these things either get solved or not picked up again. And granted, like everybody else, when we go through these reviews, you'll notice there's some threads and plot points that don't totally get solved. But in many ways, I'm okay with that because the characters we need to focus on are there. And when you think about it, Dale Cooper, and honestly, in my opinion, the Palmer family and just everything that revolves around it spiritually. And like I've always said, because I'll mention it right now, is how Twin Peaks and the prequel was almost showing a big time start of that corruption. When we get to season 3, it shows how sort of like today in life, we've let a lot of evil slip through that we shouldn't have.
Oh,
and how they're still good, but we've let a lot of darkness corrupt the light of our world.
I also kind of forgot to mention one of the most important scenes of this. Truman telling Dale that he saw a what looked like the shadow of a one-armed man walking.
Oh, that was Hawk.
Okay, that was Hawk. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hawk telling Cooper that he saw what looked like the shadow of a one-armed man walking towards where Laura's body was.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem all that important until you look at Dale's reaction. And to me, I think that was the moment he got the invitation to the Black Lodge formally, because you can tell at that exact second, Dale knows exactly who it is, and that look on his face tells you it scares him.
Well, yeah. Well, and remember, because before he goes to the Black Lodge, he's dreaming of the one-armed man, Philip Michael Gerard, as we will come to know him, and Bob, because, he says, we lived above a convenience store, it's like this, and I was given a job or touched by the devilish one, but when I saw the face of God, took my left arm off, because like he mentioned, sort of like the devil, he had a tattoo on that shoulder, ripped it off, and, basically became like an agent of God or something. And then, you had Bob, this person, without going into detail yet, who, because his human name is Philip Michael Gerard, but he's called Mike, but there is also Mike Nelson, Bobby's friend. So that's why I started calling Mike by his human name, Philip Michael Gerard, because it's better not to confuse the two. But the one-armed man's name is Mike as well. And then there's also Bob. And it's like Bob knows that Mike is talking to Cooper. And then Bob talks to Cooper saying, you think I may have gone nuts or insane, but I will kill a guy and I will catch you with my death bag. So it's like he's discovering in many ways who killed Laura, but what are these characters' connections?
Well, and also there's another fun thing with Dr. Jacoby. Like if you notice, Dr. Jacoby is always wearing those Grateful Dead glasses with one red lens and one blue lens. Black Lodge, Blue Lodge. And what happens when you combine the two? You get purple, aka velvet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also kind of neat because, Dr. Jacoby he's kind of one of those guys who starts off kilter, like possibly even just downright schizophrenic to a certain extent. And yet he's one of the guys who kind of evens out by the end of it. He kind of like is on the event horizon of the madness, but he gets lucky enough to get slingshotted out of it.
Yeah, and hilariously enough, he becomes like a lot of our YouTube and or talk radio personalities by the end of it. As I was talking to Jherick, rewatching season 3 a while ago, and it's funny because I was telling him, you listen to what Jacoby's saying, he's not wrong about whatever he's screaming about over. I'm going to say his program's probably on YouTube because because like everybody's watching him on their phones or tablets, and Nadine on her computer. So he's probably got his show there on YouTube. And oh yeah, his name's Dr. Amp, believe it or not. But it's like again, it's that funny thing where he's screaming about all this stuff. And again, you want to look at him as insane. And I'm like, yeah, but when you listen to what he says, he's not exactly wrong in what he's saying. So yeah, Jherick's right. He evens out. But again, we'll get into that later as we're mentioning all these little extra things.
I'm tired of them putting evil bombs in the water to make the Dale Coopers gay. You understand me? Gay Dale Coopers.
He's definitely not. I would say he's more Rush Limbaugh than Alex Jones, but no, well. But yeah.
Yeah, and also, if any of you wondered, again, one glove. Why is it on the right hand? Because good little boys and girls who follow the word of God keep their hands clean. The devil loves to get his hands dirty. Giggity, giggity, giggity. Go with God.
Indeed.
Have fun, children.
Well then, I guess we have talked about that stuff enough, given we're at the 40-minute mark. So yep. I guess if you wanted to mention Jherick to close us out, favorite characters of this episode.
Oh, that's easy. First off, Albert, for just being the biggest asshole of the group.
Yep, and again, Miguel Ferrer, who played Albert Rosenfield.
Good job. Dale Cooper for, just being Dale Cooper.
Kyle MacLachlan, yep.
And I have to give it up to Mr. Truman for standing up to Albert in the most badass way possible.
Michael Ontkean, yep. And I had a huge extensive list too, because I thought a lot of characters did a great job in this one too. So it's not, but again, if you guys look here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This bottom half here, that's all Twin Peaks. Put that back there. Twin Peaks actually always has a pretty damn big cast. But like Jherick said, you think some of these characters would be, there are some characters who are just there as like background or supporting characters, but even a lot of the supporting characters do have connections to everything else. And, it's great stuff. And you'll even see how some of these characters in season 3 will have shortened roles, but you'll see what became of them after the prequel movie or the first 2 seasons. And it's actually cool how David Lynch and the writer Mark Frost, it's David Lynch and Mark Frost wrote this whole thing together, and again, if you guys want, when we're done doing season 3, I told Jherick if we want, we'll start reading chapters, because apparently I have all the Twin Peaks books, and if you want, we'll start reading chapters of the book, and like little bit by bit, and we'll even review that if you want, because again, the world of Twin Peaks is very cool, and the book actually gets into historical figures of our time and how they interacted with us, like Lewis and Clark, Thomas Jefferson, and a few other people. So it really is interesting. But other than that, but no, those are good picks. And I guess I could say for the final closeout, overall, what did you think of the episode?
Great episode. And hey, if you want more Twin Peaks analysis, check out Slightly Sarcastic Productions on YouTube. Some of the absolute funniest shit I've ever seen, especially the videos analyzing Sun Wukong and Dionysus. Absolute comedy gold. There's a bunch of other ones. I kind of forget the channel names, but yeah, check out there's a video like the Twin Peaks inspiration behind the Velvet Room. Another great one. And frankly, to be honest with you, how the heck did this series not get a tabletop role-playing game in the 90s?
Well, probably because, again, it was popular, but then as soon as it was taken off the air and or canceled, it was like people probably just, for those who were Uber fans like me and other adults who grew up with it, you loved it. And for those who didn't, it just sort of felt, well, let's take another show that's like it. How many people besides me and you, raise their hands, remember the X-Files?
Oh, and if you want to kind of get more into like David Lynch's headspace for the show, watch Eraserhead. Difficult movie to watch, but there's a lot more of the dream symbolism in that one too.
Well, remember, David Lynch hasn't said it, but we sort of say because Henry's apartment, the main character, has a very similar floor pattern to that. And I always say the way I look at it is that's what happens after you're done going through the Black Lodge. Because to sort of give you a spoiler warning again, there's I think a little bit after the first season, or maybe it's in the second season, where Hawk talks about the lodges with Cooper when Cooper first discovers them, and Hawk says they're like the waiting rooms into the afterlife. So it is heaven and hell, but if it's the waiting room, what do you see? And for Henry in Eraserhead, he lives in a very weird, pure, industrial purgatory. But like to mention the movie Nefarious again, how does Nefarious describe hell when James asks him, is it a physical place or a state of being? Both.
Well, you know what's funny about Eraserhead? It kind of reminds me, like how much of it takes place in like that one room. It reminds me both of Silent Hill 4, The Room, but also Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis, which in and of itself has a lot of Twin Peaks influence in it.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, Twin Peaks has a lot of Franz Kafka in it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, but I mean, you can tell David Lynch loves him some weird and creepy. So there's a couple recommendations for you.
And also, I will mention before closing us out, if you guys really want, his analysis is really good, and I will trademark Twin Perfect here on his channel. I don't think he's done anything in a while, but again, his whole focus, I think, was Twin Peaks and a few other shows. But if you want an in-depth analysis that hopefully won't irk you like it did me and a couple of my friends, watch Twin Perfect. He does do a great in-depth analysis. Don't go to him like for us, we're giving you in-depth on the story. Go for him if you want the in-depth on what visual styles, character styles, and things that David Lynch were using. Because honestly, me and my friends, we wanted to get and my one friend who he and I, we watched this thing together, his name is Spirit Hunter. I'll tell you who that is when we're done with the video. Spirit Hunter. We watched it and we liked it at first, but then we realized that Twin Perfect was being like, he was going deep into the literal senses of it. And like nobody, like me and Jherick, I think are some of the few where we want to get to the meat of the story and talk about what the story means. A lot of people have a hard time doing that, and they get to the physical sense of what Mark Frost and David Lynch were getting in. I'm like, I like how people want to avoid it for the spiritualism, but again, that's just me. But like we've said, David Lynch pulls no punches with his movies, and I think that's why he's probably more hated than he should be, but he's also very well praised, as he also needs to be, because he's a brilliant director. But again, I will leave you with those thoughts, guys. But again, if you want a in-depth like that, look at Twin Perfect trademark. We'll see if this gets taken down by YouTube, like I said, Jherick, with the things we mentioned.
Yeah.
But again, what are your thoughts, guys, on the show? Sorry, Jherick had a lot to talk about, and I had a few things I sprinkled in here as well. But again, hope you enjoy it. And again, sorry it's almost 50 minutes long, but just let us know your thoughts down below, and we will get back to you guys with another review, all right?
Hey, please don't banhammer us, Google. We're being chilling, we swear.
So until then, all one, two, Moku.
And Jherick the canceled jackass.
And hopefully not. We'll talk to you guys later, right? See ya.
See ya. Oh, being chilling.